Hello everyone, welcome to your partner in education, Agile Rank Mate. Today, in this episode of IIFT Insights, we're going to be looking at another sample question based on logical reasoning. So IIFT is an exam that involves a lot of logical reasoning questions where you have to understand the question and reason out the answer from the clues given. So we have a set of questions today based on a particular scenario. Let's dive right into it. So we have three questions for today. The directions are as follows. 5 women decided to go shopping to MG Road, Bangalore. They arrived at the designated meeting place in the following order: Archana, Chelamma, Dhenuka, Helen, and Sahnaz. Each woman spent at least 1,000 rupees. Below are some additional facts about how much they spent during their shopping spree. The woman who spent 2,234 rupees arrived before the lady who spent 1,193 rupees. One woman spent 1,340 rupees and she was not Dhenuka. One woman spent 1,378 rupees more than Chelamma. One woman spent 2,517 rupees and she was not Archana. Helen spent more than Dhenuka. Sahnaz spent the largest amount and Chelamma the smallest. So these are the clues that are given to us. Now let's look at the three questions first before we move on to solving the clue and the questions. The questions that we have are: we need to find out the woman who spent 1,193 rupees. We also need to find out what was the amount spent by Helen, and the final answer being which of the following amounts was spent by one of them. Now, what it means is that which of these amounts correspond to one of the values that was spent by a woman. Some of these values here aren't spent by a person. So, having looked at the questions, let's decipher this particular set of directions. So, first of all, in order to simplify stuff, let's rename the women as A, C, D, H, and S respectively. So let's write down the clues first. The first clue is the order of the women who came to the meeting place. So A comes first, then C, then D, then H, and the final woman being S. The second clue that was given to us is that the minimum amount that each woman are obliged to spend is 1,000 rupees. So each woman spent at least 1,000 rupees. So the minimum value spent by the five women have to be greater than or equal to 1,000 rupees. So whatever value that they have shopped, whatever value of goods that they have shopped, it has to be greater than 1,000 rupees for each one of them. Now, if we look at the additional facts, 2234 comes before 1193. This is the gist of the particular statement. So, clue 3 gives us that the amount 2234 rupees, whatever woman had spent it, comes before the woman who spent 1193 rupees. So we don't know who spent 2234 and who spent 1193, but we know that this value has to come before that. And when it comes to values such as one value before another, it is important to note that it doesn't always have to be immediate. So it's not the case that 2234 has to be right above 1193. It could be 2 places above, 3 places above, etc. But the fact is that 1193 cannot come before 2234 in the particular order of women arriving at the designated place. That's all. Now, when we look at clue 4, this is clue 3. Clue 4 is the given number of values. Now, if we look at all of the particular values that are given here, we know that one woman spent 2234, one woman spent 1193, one woman spent 1340 and another woman spent 2517. This value 1378 is not a value that's spent by someone, it's actually the difference between two values. So if we look at spent values, we see that we have 2234, 1193, 1340, and 2517. Now clue 5 refers, we can club up the two statements where a value is not ascribed to someone. We know that 1340 is not D and 2517 is not A. So we can just write them down as one particular clue. So the value assigned to Dhenuka, or D, is not, it cannot be 1340. Similarly, Archana, or A, cannot have the value 2517. Then we have another clue here, the statement containing 1378. It says, one woman spent 1378 rupees more than Chelama, or C. So in our particular clue, one woman, her spent value is the spent value of Chelama, or C, and we add 1378 rupees to it. Then we have, this is clue number 7, Helen spends more than Dhenuka, or H spends more than D. Always. And the final clue being Sehnaz spends the largest amount and C spends the smallest. So S has the maximum value, spent value, and C has the minimum spent value. Now, if we look at clue number 4, you see that we're given 4 spent values. However, we know from clue 1 that there are 5 women. So the first step is to calculate the fifth value spent by a woman. Now, how do we calculate this fifth value? Now, we're given 4 values, 2234, 1193, 1340, and 2517. Now, among these 4 values, 1193 is the smallest and 2517 is the highest. But we cannot be certain that 1193 is the smallest among the 5 terms, nor we can say that 2517 is the largest among the 5 terms. However, we can assume that these are the case in 2 separate scenarios and calculate the fifth value by using clue number 6. One woman spends 1378 rupees more than C. So in order to calculate the fifth value, we use 2 particular scenarios. So scenario 1 says that 1193 rupees is the least value spent. And scenario number 2 says 2517 rupees is the maximum value spent. Now, if we look at possibility number 1, we know that 1193 is the smallest value. This is what we have assumed. Now, from clue number 8, we know that Chelama, or C, has to have the minimum value. She spent the least amount of money. So if 1193 is the smallest value, then it's also ascribed to C. So this is according to clue number 8. Now, since clue number 6 says that one woman spends 1,378 rupees more than the value of C, then we can calculate that particular value as 1193 plus 1378. So 3 plus 8 gives us 11. 1 carries over. 10 plus 7 gives you 17. 1 carries over. 1 plus 3 gives you 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 1 plus 1 gives you 2. So 2571 rupees is the value spent by the woman who spends 1378 rupees more than Chelama. And if you look at our 4 values given, you see that 2571 also turns out to be the maximum value. And according to clue 8, that has to be spent by Sahnaz or S. So now we know the minimum value and the maximum value. So if we were to arrange it according to the women spent, so we have A followed by C, then D, then H, and S. This is according to the first clue. So we know that Chelama spends the least value, which in this case is 1193. Sahnaz spends 2571 because that's the maximum value. Now, we know that according to clue number 3, we need to have 2,234 rupees, the woman who spent 2,234 rupees, coming before the person who spends 1193 rupees. So using that clue 3, we see that Chelama spends 1193. The only scenario where that clue can be made correct is if Archana spends 2,234 rupees. We also know that Dhenuka cannot take 1,340 rupees. This is according to clue 5. So therefore, the only other value that she can take is 2,517 rupees. And finally, we can see that Helen has to spend 1,340 rupees in order for this particular possibility to hold true. However, if you look at this particular scenario, you see that this particular scenario violates clue number 7. In clue number 7, we know that Helen has to spend more than Dhenuka. However, in this particular scenario, Helen spends 1,340 rupees, while Dhenuka spends 2,517 rupees. So therefore, since this is the particular permutation that's only available to possibility number 1, and that violates the 7th clue, we can safely say that possibility 1 is wrong. So let's move on to possibility number 2. Now, in possibility number 2, we consider 2,517 rupees as the largest value, and since it's the largest value, it has to be ascribed to Sahnaz according to clue number 8. Now, using clue number 6, which says one woman has to have 1,378 rupees spent more than Chelama, let's say that Sahnaz is that one woman according to clue number 6, which means the sum of Chelama's value and 1,378 is 2,517. So therefore, the value spent by Chelama has to be 2,517 minus 1,378. You do the subtraction. 7 minus 8 does not work, so it's 17 minus 8. That gives you 9. There's a 0 here, so you have to add a 10. So that becomes 10. 10 minus 7 gives you 3. 4 minus 3 gives you 1. 2 minus 1 also gives you 1. So according to this particular equation, we see that Chelama spends 1,139 rupees. And that is also the smallest value, since according to clue number 8, Chelama spends the least. So now we know that Sahnaz spends 2,517 rupees and Chelama spends 1,139 rupees. Now, let's look at the arrangement again. So we have A, C, D, H, and S. So over here, Chelama spends 1,139. Sahnaz spends 2,571. Now, let's look at some of the conditions that we need to follow here. All right. So we need to use this order. That's correct. Minimum value is greater than or equal to 1,000 rupees. That works. We need to make sure that 2,234 comes before 1,193. We know that these are some of the spent values. That's correct. We also need to make sure that this particular condition is met, where Dhanuka does not have 1,340. The sixth condition is also met. We also need to make sure that the seventh condition has to be met. Helen has to spend more than Dhanuka. And the eighth condition is also met. So we need to make sure 3, 5, and 7 are met in the possibilities present in the second scenario. So so basically what we need to, let's write them down. We need to have 2, 2, 3, 4 present before 1, 1, 9, 3, though it does not have to be immediately before. We also need to make sure that Dhanuka does not spend 1, 3, 4, 0. And we also need to make sure that Helen has more than Dhanuka. Now, using the first two conditions, we'll get two particular choices. Now, here we know that 2, 2, 3, 4 has to be before 1, 1, 9, 3, and since Dhanuka cannot spend 1, 3, 4, 0, we can ascribe that to Archana, and Dhanuka gets 2, 2, 3, 4, so that Helen can spend 1, 1, 9, 3. This is one possibility. However, in this particular possibility, we can see that Helen again spends less than Dhanuka. So this possibility is wrong. However, there's another scenario which can also work. So in this other scenario, we will ascribe 2, 2, 3, 4 to Archana, and Dhanuka can get 1, 1, 9, 3. So Helen would spend 1, 3, 4, 0, the number that we cannot ascribe to Dhanuka. And as you can see in this particular scenario, Helen does spend more than Dhanuka, and all the other conditions are met. So Helen spends more than Dhanuka. 2, 2, 3, 4 comes before 1, 1, 9, 3, and Dhanuka does not have 1, 3, 4, 0. Archana does not have 2, 5, 7, 1. So therefore, this particular scenario turns out to be the correct scenario. So Archana spends 2, 2, 3, 4 rupees. Chelama spends 1, 1, 3, 9 rupees. Dhanuka spends 1, 1, 9, 3. Helen spends 1, 3, 4, 0. And Sahnaz spends 2, 5, 7, 1. So now that we found out the correct scenarios, the correct scenario of the values ascribed to the person, let's look at the following questions. The first question asks, which of the women spent 1193 rupees? We have A. Archana, B. Chelama, C. Dhanuka, D. Helen. If we look at our scenario, we can see that D. Dhanuka spends 1193. So therefore, option C, Dhanuka, turns out to be the right option. If we look at question number 2, we're asked what was the amount spent by Helen. So Helen comes after Dhanuka, and we can see that she spent 1,340 rupees. So therefore, option B, 1340, turns out to be the right option. And finally, we need to find out which of the following amounts was spent by one of them. Now, what does this mean? This means that which of the options contain the 5 values spent by the group of women. So we have 1139, 1378, 2571, 2718. The number 2718 was not mentioned in any of the calculations, so that's incorrect. 2571 was mentioned in possibility 1, but in that possibility we found out that Helen spends less than Dhanuka, which is incorrect. In option B, we have 1378. That value is the difference between one woman, or Sahnaz, and Chelama. So therefore, option B again is incorrect. The right answer is option A, 1139. Now, in the second possibility, we took 2517 as the largest value, and when we use the condition Chelama the woman who spends 1378 above Chalama spends 2517. Then we found out that Chalama's value turns out to be 1139. So option A, 1139 rupees, turns out to be the right option. So that concludes this episode of IIFT Insights. We hope you found this episode interesting. For more of our useful and interesting content, don't forget to subscribe to Agile Rank Mate, your partner in education. You can also click the notifications icon present below the video in order to get the latest updates. So until the next webisode, take care, stay alert, bye-bye for now.